Today, we're going to cover 5 killer strategies that you can use to make some money with your Ethereum. Now, today what we're going to do is talk about a few different things, a few different protocols. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do. You don't need a lot of money to do any of these different strategies. You can do it with just even a few $100s. You don't need thousands and thousands of dollars like many of the whales that we see in crypto today. And this is a video for, the retail users, the people like you and me that don't have much ETH. These are strategies focused on Ethereum. So when I say Ethereum, I mean ETH, the asset. And some of these you'll find on a variety of layer 2 chains and whatnot. So you can avoid those horrible gas fees. Now, let's just jump straight into it. These are strategies that I have actually talked about on Twitter already. So go and follow me there if you don't already. And you'll find lots of good content there for sure. And for those of you who haven't already, check out my newsletter. That's often where I write about some of these things in a bit more detail. So I think some of you guys will enjoy that, especially if you like written content. Then definitely go and check that out. So I think we're going to start off with strategy number 1, and that is basically to just stake your ETH. Yes, you don't make a substantial amount of money, but there is one thing to remember. First of all, you do make, 3 to 5% approximately, depending on who you go with. Now, Lido is the largest, but you can also go with Frax, for example, which is personally one of the ones that I prefer. And the second thing is, remember that this is not just yield that you're earning in dollars, this is yield you're earning in ETH. And so you got to remember that if you are thinking that, perhaps we're at the start of a bull market, or in the future we see a bull market where ETH goes up multiples from where it is today, then you can kind of multiply that APR by based on that, essentially, depending on when you're going to sell. So that's just one thing that I use in terms of my mind frame to just think, if ETH ever goes to $5,000, $10,000, no financial advice, of course, then, the amount that you're earning today is going to multiply as well. And you're helping to secure the network here. This is probably one of the lower risk things to do. So obviously with lower risk, you generally are going to get a lower reward. But you can do this. And the great thing about these LSD protocols is that they're very composable. And that means you can do lots of things with your with your staked ETH tokens that you deposit into here. It's very simple to do if you haven't already. If you've just got one ETH, you just basically enter that. You submit and you can stake. Now, you don't actually have to do that. You can actually just go directly on the market and buy ST ETH if you wanted to, and that staked ETH represents your staked position. Again, on Frax, if you've got one Frax ETH, or if you want to mint Frax ETH, again, you take your ETH, you put it in here, you'll get one Frax ETH. You can go and stake that one Frax ETH and get S Frax ETH. Again, you don't have to do that. You can just go on an exchange like I am right now, and if you've got one ETH, you can just swap it directly into S Frax ETH again if you wanted to as well. Here you can see I'm doing on Arbitrum, where the gas fees and transaction fees are only $1 at a max. So that's a really cheap way to kind of get exposure to the underlying staking yield. And these tokens will obviously earn you rewards, which you can do whatever you want with later. One of the things that you can do, and this is moving on to strategy number 2, is use your ETH or your staked ETH as collateral. And you can see here I'm on the Optimism network, so let's go to Arbitrum, for example. And what we can do is we can just provide our ETH as collateral. And you could borrow some stables against it and do some interesting things with stables. If you wanted to trade them, if you wanted to buy another altcoin, if you wanted to get exposure to another altcoin, you could do that directly this way. So there's lots of things that you can do. You could even farm with those stable coins if you borrowed them. You could even short if you kind of borrowed, let's say, ARB or Link and then sold it, and then hopefully if the price went down and then you bought it back later, you would have pocketed the difference. There's lots of strategies that you can do this way, and it's very simple. Provide your ETH and then you can borrow against it. You can unlock a whole range of collaterals and really increase your liquidity based on that. So that's one thing that you can do, and you don't just have to do it with ETH. You can do it with the staked ETH from Lido as well, which is obviously earning the underlying staking yield. So that is another bonus there for sure. So that's a really interesting one. It doesn't just have to be Aave. You can do it on Radiant as well, which is probably one of the largest money markets on Arbitrum. So that is another option for you to use as well. Yeah, again, very simple to do. You just connect your wallet, provide the asset that you want. If it's ETH, you just click it. You'll basically just deposit your ETH directly in here. I don't have any in this wallet, that's why it won't let me do that, but that's pretty much what you do. Moving on to strategy number 3, Uniswap. We're just talking about simply providing liquidity here. And let's say if you want to provide liquidity for ETH USDC, you're providing an equal amount of those assets. Let's say we want to provide a range between this price and this price. So between, let's say, $1,400 and let's say $1,500 and $2,000 for Ethereum. Currently the price is this, so you're basically providing liquidity. As long as it's within this range, you can basically enter how much you want. So if you've only got 1 ETH, or let's say you've got only half ETH, again, you can do that. You can provide some USDC alongside with it. And you can provide liquidity there, and you can earn a decent amount actually. If we go to Revert Finance, and this is a tool that I like to use for analysis of Uniswap positions, let's have a look and see how much these guys are probably earning at the moment. So ETH USDC. Some of these positions are going to be earning very, very high APRs. Look at this, like triple digit APRs. Now, these are going to be really, really, really concentrated, but I'm fairly sure you can earn, 30% easily. And that's just for providing your liquidity there. So that's very good. And it's great because if the price of ETH goes down, you're going to technically accumulate more. So you're kind of dollar cost averaging in. If the price of ETH goes up, you're making profit. So happy days, really, in either scenario. So yeah, that's providing liquidity, a great thing. I like to do this quite often, and it's very easy to do. You can do it on Uniswap, you can do it on any other DEX as well, Trader Joe, Curve, Ambient. There's lots of exchanges for you to use. Number 4 is basically to use your Ethereum and basically airdrop farm. Now, we've talked about airdrop farming a lot. I've written about it on Twitter. I've written about it in my newsletter. I've made plenty of videos about it. There are a number of different layer 2 networks. As you can see on screen here, we've got the likes of Base, Linear, Polygon, ZK EVM, Scroll, ZK Sync. And anyway, you can basically send ETH directly from Arbitrum or any other of these networks directly to one of these other networks, let's say ZK Sync. So we can send that ETH directly there, and then what we can do is we can basically use the different protocols on these layer 2 blockchains that don't have tokens yet but potentially will have tokens in future, and airdrop farm with them. Now, we've seen some very, very good airdrop rewards with the likes of Arbitrum and Optimism in the past. Is there a chance that some of these new chains will have a token in future? I think so, and therefore I think this is a reasonably decent strategy for those of you who have limited capital and want to play around, get exposure to DeFi, learn a little bit along the way, and potentially earn a decent airdrop. I think it's a reasonable strategy to use for sure, especially if you don't have much ETH. So that's certainly a good one, and that's number 4. And then number 5, we're going to talk about using some different niche protocols really. One of them is Y2K Finance, which is basically a protocol that lets you buy or sell insurance for different assets losing their peg or not. So there's lots of assets here, as you can see on screen. Some of these assets lose peg. For example, some of these are stablecoins. Stablecoins can lose their peg. Some of them are derivatives like STETH that we've talked about in the past. It can lose its peg to ETH, and so or wrapped Bitcoin, for example. And so you can basically sell insurance or even buy insurance. One of the things that I've been doing is selling insurance. I've talked about Y2K in the past. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. If you want to learn more, you can watch my other videos on it. But there are also like other kind of protocols, Similia Finance, basically have these vaults that you can just easily just deposit your ETH in and kind of just forget, and you can earn decent-ish APRs from time to time. Sometimes they do have some good strategies, and they'll do all the work for you. You don't really have to do anything. So yeah, that's a nice one for sure. So yeah, all in all, we've talked about staking, we've talked about using leverage by borrowing against your ETH, we've talked about liquidity providing, we've talked about airdrop farming, and lastly, we've talked about some niche products and vaults that you can basically deposit your ETH in. So all in all, 5 different killer strategies to use your ETH and make some passive income along the way. I say passive, it could be a little bit active because you kind of have to do a bit of work for it, but generally I think once you've got things set up, you should be okay. We all like cash flow. We like to make assets productive, and that's why I make videos like this. So yeah, let me know if there's any strategies that you like. Let me know your thoughts about the strategies that I've mentioned in the video. Drop a comment down below. Follow me on Twitter. Make sure you are subscribe to my newsletter, because I have been writing there a bit more, and I do like writing there for sure. So go and check that out, and we'll be back with plenty more content in the near future.